This is the Generative AI Security Podcast, brought to you by the OWASP Top 10 for LLM apps and GenAI. We'll be talking about pertinent industry issues around generative AI with our project leads, contributors, and more. Please click like and subscribe for all of our latest content.
Hey community, Aubrey here with the Generative AI Security Podcast and Project. I hope you're all doing well. I'm joined today by Susanna, who's representing the OWASP AI Exchange. How you doing today, Susanna?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you, Aubrey?
I'm doing pretty good. Now I just told you I was listening to King Giz and the Lizard Wizard before this, so I'm in a great mood. It's Friday as we record it, so I'm psyched for the weekend. And do you have any great plans for the weekend at all?
Oh, just to be outdoors as much as possible. I'm in California in the Bay Area, and it's absolutely beautiful out. I keep looking back at the sunlight thinking I've got to get outside. That's the goal.
I have nothing but gray skies and rain here in Rochester, New York, which is horrible.
Oh, thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. It is honestly I think typically it ties with Buffalo for grayest in the nation most years, which is horrible. So I got to get out of here. I do. Maybe I'll move to California. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, but be careful because San Francisco is where I moved to the first time, and that is probably the greatest place in the nation. At least that's my hypothesis. So San Francisco is not LA. I learned that the hard way.
No, it definitely isn't. Those are very, very different places. At
Indeed.
West Coast for me, like where I've been, I'm very comfortable with Seattle. That tends to be a great place for me. Here, Portland is fantastic too, but I have yet to go.
You'll live in San Francisco then.
Yeah, well, that's I was just talking to my buddy from Portland actually a minute ago. But people didn't come to hear about cities; they came to hear about artificial intelligence, right? So let's start with kind of what do you do? How'd you get into cybersecurity? That's
Oh, wow.
I just read this, so I'm like cheating, but go ahead.
I came up in security culture. My family's been doing security and intelligence work forever. So it was sort of a natural transition for me. I was doing some physical security work, and then I got the opportunity to learn about some of the more software-oriented aspects of security. I don't want to say technical because it's all very technical, but that's when I started getting my hands on computers. And then subsequently, I started noticing some pretty glaring security flaws in AI systems. This was about 2010, and started working on the security aspects of that and understanding it. Eventually, I was like, okay, I really need to get my hands on actual work as a data scientist. So at that point, I was like, I'm going to become a data scientist. I got my start in natural language processing, so it's kind of apropos in a sense to the general moment around generative AI. And that's just where I kind of jumped in and progressed from there. So I've done every job up to AI architect pretty much in that stack. And so I've had a lot of hands-on experience with not just, the security flaws of the models or the models themselves, but kind of what it takes to get models into production, what it takes to train teams. So that kind of naturally led to this purple team focus that I have now, which is how do we de-silo AI and cybersecurity and security in general? And how do we teach people not just how to do their jobs more effectively, but how to talk to each other? So that's really my focus of late. And then I got added into the AI Exchange, and kind of the rest is recent history, if you will.
So I probably describe it wrong every time I talk about it, but for any of our community that does not understand what the AI Exchange is, you want to kind of do an overview just so they understand?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics. This is one of my favorite resources. If you want to understand AI security, anything AI security, in plain terms that are applicable to your job right now, the AI Exchange is a go-to resource for that. So it's organized according to where in the production lifecycle these threats and mitigations occur. You have access to controls, you have access to further research in a lot of cases, and all of this is made by people in the field. So Everyone has their own area of expertise. As we all know, AI security is huge, right? So it takes all types of people to contribute, and everyone has their niche where we're able to either write copy or review and so forth. And it's just grown into such a well-regarded resource that we are now able to contribute to international standards, ISO standards, and also help contribute to the requirements for the AI Act itself.
Nice. One thing I do know about the project is that you contribute a ton of stuff to what we do in the top 10 as well, or for the top 10 within the GenAI Security Project, right? So
yeah, I think one of the great things about, because these are two flagship projects with OWASP, right? And so we have really great communication back and forth. Like I joke about there being a rivalry sometimes, but in the sense that iron sharpens iron, we have a dialogue, and when these things feed into each other, it really can only improve the state of AI security.
Nice. I'm kind of new to that rivalry, if you will. Like I
made
first
it up.
noticed it. No, you didn't make it up. There's other people too that have mentioned this thing too. I can't remember who it was I was talking to at RSA, not this year, but last year. Someone from the AI Exchange, and they mentioned that too. They're like, yeah, well, our project's better. Literally, we have a better project. I'm like,
Better?
come on, what? No.
No, our project, I mean, it is, I'm not saying it's better, but it is better. No, I think we have complementary approaches, and if people find ours more helpful in certain circumstances, or the top 10 more helpful, great, because then AI security is getting better, and we're all getting better together. That's my 2 cents. And I can say that because we're better.
You bet. But I usually talk about it by saying, you should pay attention to both. Honestly,
Right.
that's typically what I end up talking to people about when I'm talking about, the GenAI security project. But
Mhm.
but if you're paying attention to us, you probably should also look at this. So
Yeah.
so I think it's great, and the work that you guys do is much more widespread than what we do. We're much more focused than the stuff that you guys work on. I sometimes am overwhelmed by the weight of it when I talk to researchers over there. So
Oh, wow. Thank you. And we try
yeah,
to be pretty comprehensive in that, all AI isn't generative AI. That is a specific type and a fairly recent development. For those of us who are familiar with the Transformer paper and so forth and what led up to that, it's not as recent as some might think. But that's a specific type of AI. And by and large, most business use case today, and I, am saying loosely most, but it's still going to fall within the predictive AI rubric. And we see people adopting generative AI all the time en masse, but right now we're still waiting to see how it's going to shake out in terms of what value the industry is getting from it, and what applications they're going to find. Predictive AI, we have people in the trenches right now that are saying, we have these systems, how do we secure them? So from our perspective, I think it makes sense to a lot of us to cover both.
nice. Well, I couldn't agree more. Now, when I first met you in San Francisco at RSA, we talked a little bit about a paper that you've got forthcoming. And I was hoping that maybe we could tease that out a little bit. The only thing that I got out of it was that, there were some assumptions with red teaming that may have been incorrect. And that right there was enough to fascinate me. Our viewers watch a lot of red teaming content. Like if we do anything on red teaming, they want to know about it. So I figured I'd try and bring this to them.
Cool. Yeah.
As much as I could anyways. So
this is something that came out of our work for the AI Act requirements. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the backstory. We were tasked with finding out, we're going to have to tell people to test for evasion attacks. And we were tasked with finding out, can you offer full coverage for evasion attacks through testing? If so, how? What does that look like? Be specific. And so I actually ended up doing the research for this and getting into some of the mathematics of it. And it turns out that no, you actually cannot achieve full coverage. In fact, you can't even really certify what amount of coverage you have achieved because of some of the mathematical realities of this space. So when you have models, they have a subspace, if you will, of adversarial attacks that are effective on them. And what we found is that, and there's a pretty good body of literature on this, what we found is that these subspaces are very, very large. So large that a search for all the attacks is in the realm of NP complete, meaning you're really not going to be able to provide full coverage. You're not going to be able to find or map all of the attacks under these. So what that ends up meaning is that it has some implications for when you're red teaming systems, how many attacks you're running. When I talk to providers and they say we run attacks in the thousands, and okay, but when you're looking at something that's, nearly infinitely large in 25-dimensional space, what amount of coverage do you really have with that? And there are also some game theoretic assumptions underlying this. And I think this is where it starts to get kind of spicy, because much of this is already known, right, in the literature. Like I have papers I can reference to show you that this is a 25-dimensional space. It's huge. So that's not a new thing. But when you take into account how these attacks are actually performed in the field, and how people who are malicious are trying to employ these, it's very different from the way that red teams are testing them. And so these two aspects combined in their intersection, I think, actually give a potential leg up to attackers in a way that I think may surprise some people to learn.
Interesting. So you're saying that doing the red teaming could actually, if a security team goes out and does red teaming against their infrastructure, it could actually help hackers hit that infrastructure.
Yeah. So unfortunately, any amount of red teaming attacks you throw are going to generally be based off of attacks in the literature. So that's one aspect. Now, a lot of companies have their own secret sauce, and that's their specific method for generating attacks. And that also contributes a substantial number. But how much coverage are you actually achieving? Like how much of this adversarial subspace are you able to certify that you're covering, especially when the search space is so huge? So that's a little bit problematic in and of itself, but you could still argue that something is better than nothing. Maybe so. This is where it starts to get a little bit technical, because we find that in certified defenses, it's very easy to break these in adversarial machine learning just by changing a few parameters. So that's one thing to hold in your mind. When you have publicly known attacks that people are running, and slight variance maybe, depending on what their own personal approach is, but nothing nearly approaching the scale and magnitude of this subspace, what you've basically done is two things. You've told adversaries, number one, here's what we already tried, don't bother trying it. And number two, here are variants that you can try and step off of just slightly and put yourself outside of the protected zone.
Wow, that's interesting. So what I'm wondering, though, is if there's a difference between running your tests in production versus running your tests in a QA environment. Are you still going to have that sort of give that leg up if you run your tests only in QA?
Well, it depends on if they know who you're contracted with. If everyone's drawing from the same publicly, it is. I'm just telling you from an attacker perspective, because I come from the red team here. I'm not going to run attacks in the literature. I'm going to run attacks that are slightly different from attacks in the literature, knowing that I can always iterate slightly further and further out and still have a good chance of being within the adversarial subspace, just because it's so massive. So if you as a provider want to give me a list of things that you've already tried that would have been good attacks, but you already tried them, that I can iterate off of ever so slightly, that's helpful information from my perspective. And that's kind of what I'm hinting at when I talk about the game theory behind this.
Wow. Okay. So I should probably ask this. When does this paper come out?
Well, it depends on when they get done with the peer review. So in the paper, I don't really tell people how to do attacks, but I do lay out the mathematical foundations and I should include my co-author, Nicholas Spenzel, in this too. We give the mathematical foundations for this, and we also have a new sort of test that we've come up with, which is a radically different methodology for testing for evasion attacks specifically. Now, if you're smart, you can read between the lines and apply this from a red team perspective. And we're giving it away for free because we want the industry to improve. We want the state of the art to advance. So hopefully, that being said, we'll get it out of peer review soon, and I can go into more depth, and we can maybe put it up on archive and so forth and get it into the hands of people that need to see it.
Okay. So then, boy, that's intriguing. I'm excited. I guess people are just going to have to pay attention to your project. That's where it will be released, right? So
I will be
just more reason to follow the exchange, I would think.
Absolutely. And as soon as we have, I mean, if we're on the bleeding edge of setting the requirements that companies are going to need to follow, it makes sense to get ahead of the curve and start paying attention to the exchange right now. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, shameless plug, because I'm giving AI security intelligence for free. I'm giving it to you in a brief that you can read. And I can also give you further research if you are the type of person that wants to do a deep dive into the technical specifications of this. So subscribe if you want. It's free. And definitely follow the OWASP AI Exchange if you want to be ahead of the curve on AI security.
That's fantastic advice. I love it. On that, I guess I'll say thank you. I appreciate your time, especially on a Friday, Susanna. It's really great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate all the work that you do in this space. This has been a blast. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, community, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to check us out. Click like and subscribe. GenAI Security Podcast for the GenAI Security Project. I'm Aubrey, and I will see you on the next one. Now, stick around.
Thanks for checking out the Generative AI Security Podcast. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.